pistons and shotguns, sunlight and moonshine, fast cars, guitars, grapes on the vine, God made them for a good time. That's the only reason I need, and it's a damn good excuse to kick back, sip some Jack, crank up some tunes, have a hold down, throw down, windows roll down kind of day. That's how we rock when you roll out my way, my way. You never partied till you partied in my country. Rednecks, white beans, blue catfish, skin clean, fried up down south.
My name is Raymond Shook. Today is September 30th, 2023. This is for FTT 114 Custom Kydex Lab. Instructor's name is Terry Collins. Today we'll be going over how to make a Kydex press using simple materials. We're going to start out. I have a piece of plywood that is cut to 16 inches long by 8 inches down. I have another piece that is cut to 12 inches long at 8 inches across. I have another piece that is 8 inches long by 4 inches across. Then I have a 2x4 that is 8 inches across. I also have 2 door hinges, heavy duty door hinges. I have bolts and screws for installing the hinges, and I also have deck screws for installing the wood to the 2x4. I'll also be using my drill with a small bit for drilling the starter hose. I have another bit for drilling my bolt hose. I have my impact driver for running the screws in. And I have spray adhesive for attaching the foam to the wood. Give me a second, let me grab the foam. Here we have 2 pieces of foam. These pieces, they're 12 inches long by 8 inches across. These are what we're going to be putting in the press. So when we go to our Kydex mode, the press pushes down and creates the mold. We'll get started on this here in just a minute. Alright, we're going to start by taking our 8-inch piece of 2x4, setting it down on the table. Have another piece here to help keep everything even. Going to take our 16-inch by 8-inch piece. We're going to set it down on top of our 2x4. We're going to make sure everything is lined up properly. From here, we're going to take our drill. We're going to place 4 starter holes across here and then drill into it. All right, we now have our starter hose. We're going to take 4 deck screws. We're going to set these in the hose. I'm going to take my impact driver, and we're going to screw these in one by one. I did get these a little bit long because I wanted them, as you can see, they'll go through a little bit. I did that because I planned on putting this piece under it and it going into this, and then I'll have some that go the other direction as well. I forgot to put this piece under it, so we're going to back those out so I can put that underneath. We'll go ahead and get these started into the wood. Okay, we have those started. I'm going to go ahead and place and line this piece up underneath. I'm going to place our 2x4 over here to level it out. Okay, we have that. Did not quite work the way I planned, so we're going to have to back this up for a second. We're going to go ahead and turn this over so we can get this other side set. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to drill pilot holes and put our screws in. Going to have a little bit of overhang here, not much. And take and place 4 holes. And go ahead and get 4 screws started in this. That pulled all the way through the bottom one. And set one on this side. Pull it all together. hold the bottom together. And if we have any sticking out, I'll go back with the Dremel and I'll smooth them down. We'll go back and we'll tighten these. There we go. We have just a hair sticking out from the others. So I'm going to get my Dremel, I'm going to smooth these out on both sides, and I'll be right back. You can see we have just a little bit on each one. The reason I did that, it gives it 2 points of securement on top and bottom. We have come through, we've ground off all the screws on both sides to make sure everything is smooth. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take our board, I'm going to take the 2 pieces of foam, that way they are sitting where it's supposed to be. Which, as you can see, we're a little bit off on the height. So to counter that, my hinges, I'm going to place them underneath like this. It'll still allow it to come up as needed. Okay, we've got everything smoothed out. Due to me using smaller OSB, plywood OSB than we called for, I'm designing mine a little bit different. Instead of having the hinges on the outside, I'm designing mine to where my hinges are hidden. That way, when it is closed, it'll look something like this. To me, I think that'll give it a cleaner, nicer look. And I'm going to be placing a hinge up here on the front as such. By doing that, it'll also give me an area to lift up, and it will allow the plywood to come up like this. I'll be attaching that also allows for a smoother set on the hinge. So when it comes down, the plywood will actually be held up by the hinges instead of trying to come all the way over. So what we're going to do, we're going to start, we'll set this to the side. We're going to start by getting these aligned where I need them. Going to mark our holes and kind of where we need to be with our hinges. And I'm going to take my starter bit. I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill the holes. Okay, we're going to get this one set back in line. Drill the holes on this one. With me doing mine a little different, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these so that way I can ensure that my plywood is where it needs, my top piece is where it needs to be. So I'm going to go ahead and take the screws and get them started. And this is just going to be a temporary Kydex deal. Once I get to get a Kydex figured out with this one, it's going to actually make me a lot better setup. It's going to be bigger, so I can do bigger holsters, as I have some custom holster designs that people want me to make. One of them being the new Taurus Home Defender. But I'm going to run these screws in, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay. Now that we have the hinges screwed on, I'm going to take my top piece, and by setting it on top, we'll be able to line up the hinges where they need to be. The screws that are holding the hinges on will work kind of as a gap to give us the gap that we need. What I'm going to do now, if I can find my pencil, it's right here. I'm going to mark where we need to drill the holes. Alright, now that we have our holes marked, as you can see, we have our holes here. This one's a little harder to see, but we got one here, here, and here. I'm going to take them, I'm going to drill out the holes. I'm going to start with the pilot drill, and I'm going to move up to the other drill. Like I said, by having the hinges on the top, on the inside versus on the top, when I come up, the wood will set up against the hinges and prevent it from laying all the way over. So I'm going to grab one of my clamps. Give me 1 second. I'm going to clamp my piece down to the edge of my table, so we can drill the holes. Like I said, we're going to start out with our pilot bit. Remember, trigger safety is always important, whether you're messing with a real gun, a screw gun, or an impact wrench. Last thing you want is your hand to be in front of this bit with your finger on the trigger. Alright, we're going to go to our bigger bit now. Go ahead and finish out the holes. Set our drill off to the side. Man, my shop's gonna need to be cleaned after this. Any burrs that we may have, gonna kind of clean those up. Just to make sure our hoses are clear. We're going to take our piece, we're going to lay it up against there. Now that we have our hose drilled out, we're going to take our bolts, we're going to set them through the holes. We're going to get the nuts started on them. Make sure you got your washers. Some of these holes are a little bit tight. So, to get it in, I'm going to have to screw it into the wood. Luckily, we have our drill. Make this a little quicker. Okay, we're going to get our nuts started. Just enough to make sure it don't come off. There it is. Thought I had it started, apparently not. That was it. We want to make sure not to tighten them down until we get them all in. I'm going to get all these put in and tightened up, and I'll be back with you to show you what we're working with at that point. Okay, we have gotten the bolts tightened down. I went through and I removed the excess, bringing them down smooth with each other. And in the process, I decided to go ahead and install my handle. On the bottom, I ground off the excess from where the screws were sticking through. That way it's nice and smooth. On the bottom, the bolt heads are rounded. And the way I have this set up, when I bring it up, it'll stop right there. Not allow it to fall back any further. That way I can put what I need to on it, bring it down and close it. I was trying to figure out another way to make this stop, and by doing this was the best way that I found. So now we're going to put our spray adhesive on our boards, and we're going to install our foam. I'm going to spray the boards I'm going to remove my mat, spray the boards, and I'll have the foam and everything ready when we come back. Okay, we have our Loctite spray adhesive. I've already sprayed the wood to get it to start getting ready to tack. I'm going to go ahead and spray the foam, have the rougher edge of the two. It's going to be facing the work surface. So I'm going to spray the side that's going to be facing the wood. Thing about this Loctite stuff, it kind of reminds me of the silly string I used to play with in school. So you want to kind of keep it on the work surface. Otherwise you'll end up with all this stringy stuff everywhere. Oh. Alright, we're going to take this. We're going to line it up as we set it down. Don't give us much time to work with. You want to get it set into place. Same thing goes with the pump. A little bit of glue on my arm. Wipe it off, make sure there's nothing on there. I'm going to hit this with the glue. got everything covered. We're going to take this, we're going to set it on our board, and we're going to close. You can see I got a little bit of an overhang. What we're going to do is take the bottom piece and leave this attached. We're going to take the bottom piece and try to move it forward just a little bit. That way we got a little bit of overhang on it. We have it pretty well lined up. I'm going to take this piece, set it on here, pretty well lined up at the bottom. I'm going to take our clamps and we're going to clamp down. That way while it's drying, it creates a good bond. At the same time, it'll also be pulling on the back, allowing that to sink in. We have those tight. We'll come back here in about 30 minutes. I'll open it up and we'll see what we got. During the drying process, I decided to go ahead and paint it when it was done drying. As you can see, I've even attached my business card to the top of it. That way, I did that as kind of a custom touch. The way this works, you'll open it up. You'll set the heated up Kydex on here. You'll set the firearm on top of that. You'll set the other Kydex on top unless you're doing what they call a taco. Taco, you'll take the Kydex and you'll fold it over the top of the firearm. You'll take this, close it down over it, and you'll clamp it shut. And by clamping it shut, compresses everything together, therefore making the form. As we conclude on the building of our press, I want to point out I did make a couple modifications to design it kind of in my own design. With the materials that I had provided, I couldn't put the hinges on the top, so I redesigned it to where I could put the hinges in between the wood and the foam. That also allows for when I open it up, it allows for it to stop and stay open instead of falling all the way backwards. I decided to go ahead and paint it to preserve the wood. I'll be using this until I can build a bigger and better one for making larger holsters for larger weapons. And so I can do more at a time and that way I can get into production full time of making holsters. I'd like to thank y'all for sticking around through this video, and I'll see you on the next one next week.